Welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast, where strategic leaders get straight to the topics, strengthening our awareness and sharpening our minds. The Pen Leader Podcast is produced by Roar, a production division of Mays & Associates Ltd. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Now here is your award-winning host, Dr. Shanda Gore.
Hello and welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about official leadership, and I have with me Mr. Jerry Markbreit, a former American football referee in the National Football League, NFL, and a 4-time Super Bowl football referee, 8-time National Championship football referee, Big Ten football official advisor, and he has been officiating over 43 years. And I'm so excited to have him come and speak about what officiating leadership really means. So, welcome, Jerry Markbreit.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Excellent. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, you have been doing this work for so many years and you've probably seen so many things, but what would you say is one of your biggest accomplishments as an official?
That's a hard question, but I think the fact that I was introduced to officiating at a very young age, at 19 years old, found something that intrigued me and scared me all at the same time. It showed me that if you take a chance and put yourself out and take a risk, that you'll either find out that you are worthy of doing it or not. And how do you find out how good you are at anything unless you try? And in my case, starting officiating little kids' games, I found it very intriguing and interesting and very satisfying. I didn't realize how complicated and expertise that you really needed in order to succeed. But being young and starting out very fresh, it started on a career that lasted a lifetime, which it makes me feel so good to know that from a 19-year-old official all the way to the Super Bowl and advising and consulting with young officials fulfilled my life and gave me something really special.
So many officials I know that we've worked with in the past speak so highly of you and all of the great work that you do. Sometimes we forget you've had your own challenges in getting to the Super Bowl. It's almost like people forget there was a long road to get there, and there's a lot of hard work that goes in behind the scenes, and you can speak testament to that. Can you share some of your challenges?
Absolutely. Officiating is not a hobby. It's a profession.
Yes.
It's something that is seasonal, but you study and work on your skills for 365 days a year. You are preparing for every season, every day of the year. Frosting on the cake is when the season comes. And if you're in the pros, it's a 20-game season. If you're in college, it's anywhere from 12 to 15 games. If it's in high school, it could be 20 or 30 games for the season. But it doesn't come easy. It's constant study, rule study, group study, telephone study. It's constantly looking at films and other officials and going to as many games as an observer and watching other people officiate, because everything in officiating is passed on from official to official. The rule book is one facet of officiating, but you can become the greatest expert on rules that exists, but it's all of the other things that make for great officiating. And it's not something that's developed over a short period of years. It's something that lasts a lifetime. I officiated all of the years that I worked and never felt that I was 100% perfect. Not even one game. Never felt that I had walked off the field and was totally satisfied with everything that I did. There was always one or two or three things that I wish I had done differently. And I think that's what keeps you sharp and makes you want to keep officiating, because you're striving for perfection, and it's impossible to be perfect. Excellent would be really my goal.
Of course.
Because the greatest officials are those that make the fewest mistakes, and they all make mistakes. The greatest officials in all sports make mistakes. It's how you handle it. It's how you keep yourself up, working, and making sure that you're doing the right job, even when things go bad. And sometimes you're out of the field and things are not going well. And you say to yourself, what am I doing out here? Why aren't I home on my couch watching somebody else officiate? You live through it. Satisfaction and feeling that you're so great that nothing could happen to you doesn't exist, but they happen. And how you handle them and how you work around them to make the game fair and work properly is what makes for great officiating. It takes a lifetime to feel that confident. And even today, when I'm watching other officials work, I feel for them if I see something that I wish they had done different. But I also understand that they just can't be perfect. And I'm maybe watching something and think it's a mistake, and it isn't. Even with all my years of experience, there's still flaws. There's no perfect. I wish there was, but there isn't.
Well, I think that this makes me remember the book. You're an accomplished author as well, and one of your books is actually named The Armchair Referee, and you wrote that a number of years ago, but it speaks to, I think, what you just said, where you're at home and you see something, but the officials, it may not be true, it's your perception, but you're not on the field. And let me just say a couple of points that you made there about being sharp, which is something that we talk about in Pen Leader, being sharp. So you're always educating yourself, getting better. And you also talked about the ability to pivot, because sports, you just don't know what's going to happen. Can you speak to where you have been challenged with that, where something happened and you had to pivot?
Every once in a while, something really big happens and you're not expecting it to happen. We were working a Denver-San Francisco game, and it was a Monday night game. It was a terrific game, and there was a pass in the end zone, and the deep official, the side judge, went up with a touchdown signal. It was routine. I gave the touchdown signal, and we got lined up for the try, and I noticed the back judge and the field judge having a small discussion. And something inside said to me, something's wrong. I better stop. I gave the ball to my umpire, who was a veteran. I said, hold on to the ball. Don't put it down for the try. And I went back into the end zone to talk to the side judge. And he said, I had the touchdown, but Donnie thinks that the receiver had gone out of bounds before he caught the ball, which would have made it an incomplete pass, even though he actually caught it. And so I went to the back judge and I said, what do you think? He said, I'm not 100% sure, but he said, I'd bet right now, I'd bet anything that he hit that end line before he caught the pass. I said to the side judge, what do you think? He said, I'm not 100% sure. I said, we're going to wave it off. I turned on the microphone and I said, the receiver, we have an incomplete pass. We took the touchdown away. We didn't know 100% that we were right. They didn't have replay back in those days. But one of the great NFL players who was doing a sideline recording, Lynn Swann, who was Hall of Famer from Pittsburgh, was on the sideline. And I looked into his face after I had announced this, and he gave me the okay signal. They had looked at it up in the press box, and the runner and the receiver had actually hit the end line. And we were correct. And I breathed a sigh of relief, and I never told anybody that Swann had given me the okay signal. But that's officiating. I made a decision after talking to both officials and had to live with it and took away a winning touchdown. How do you measure that? How do you put that in a book? To be able to make a proper decision based on equity. And sometimes you just have to rely on yourself. I always said that you study and you discuss and you seminar and do all of the things that you do in officiating of all sports. And hopefully you feel that anything that comes down the pike, you're going to be able to handle. And the fear of something happening while you're out there is so strong that it forces you to know as much as you possibly can and storing it all in your brain. And this is my own theory. I think everything that I've read and everything that I've experienced and things that I have thought about is there. But when it happens on the field, hopefully it's going to come out and I'm going to know what to do because I have prepped this and it's there in my head. I just hope to gosh that it comes out. And I've been very fortunate. I've had a number of situations over my long career where my common sense and old knowledge came through and allowed me to make the right decision. I have so much confidence, but I also know that the people that I am working with are working very hard to make sure that I don't make a mistake. And in many cases, when I get confused as a head referee, someone on my crew who is an excellent rules person will correct me or give me a sign that I've said something incorrect and help me to get out of the hole.
That's an important point that you just made. A number of points there, but one of them being it doesn't even matter if you're non-official, but if you're a leader and you've got a team, you've got to be able to have a little muscle memory, and because you've studied so much, so it just comes naturally to you because you've hit the books. And it's so that you can make the call. But then there's strength in your team where somebody knows that rule book even more than you do, if that's even possible. But that
That's possible.
that you can count on them to make that call, right?
Right. Well, doctor, the most important thing is when the referee gets the information, there may be multiple fouls, there may be situations that are not normally happening. And sometimes the referee, myself, get a little confused and I'm not 100% sure. Somebody on the crew will just say one word to me and straighten it out. And that's what makes the difference. But the whole leadership points to the most important thing. Your body of work and how you handle situations. So important in leadership skills to show your crew that you are worthy of being the leader. Everyone on the crew wants to have a leader. And in football, the referee, the head referee with a white hat, is the leader. And the other 6 or 7 officials want a leader. They want someone to lead them and take care of situations that the leader takes care of, but allowing everybody to be part of it. And ethical leadership is so important because it's doing the right thing when nobody's looking. It's not covering things up, being honest and truthful with everyone. Being a leader is so complex and it's so complicated that it just doesn't come naturally. You can read all the books in the world on leadership, but you've got to feel the respect that you have for the people that you're working with, for the players, for the coaches, and you've got to have that field presence as a leader so that when you walk out onto the field, the coaching staff and the players are happy to see you because they know that the equity of the game lies with you. And if they have confidence in you because you've established this over the years, it makes for a much better environment from an officiating standpoint. There's nothing more rewarding than to go talk to a coach before the game and he says, "Boy, I'm glad to see you this week."
It's great news, yes.
Instead of saying, "Boy, I wish I hadn't seen you for a long time." This whole thing about equity and respect is what a leader is. It's wonderful to be able to lead other people, but you have to be respectful of yourself as well as all of the others. In football officiating, a wise old official, Norman Schechter, who was a great NFL referee, said 90% of being a head referee is off the field. 10% is the actual officiating. Everybody can call roughing the passer an illegal motion and all of the other things. But it's all of the other things, pulling the crew together, dealing with problems off the field, pre-game meetings, dealing with families, with family problems, and all the things that a referee has to do that make for a well-rounded referee in any sport, 100%.
You talked about the strength of character. I mean, when you're talking about 90% off the field, that is the strength of character and adding that and demonstrating your credibility so that when the coaches do see you, they are glad to see you and your actual crew, which is your team, they have confidence in you as well because you've taken care of those key components, those ethical components off the field so that when you walk onto the field, that's what I'm hearing from you.
Well, you're exactly right, because all of the things that go to make you want to take that chance to step out into the biggest stage of your sport in front of millions of people and knowing that you are confident that you're going to handle this thing properly, that you've prepared yourself and that anything can happen. It's the most rewarding thing that I've ever done in my life. life. I always said that when you put your uniform on, you become something much bigger than yourself. The uniforms that soldiers and sailors and policemen and firemen and all of the other occupations that put uniforms on are much bigger than just their sport. The officials that put on that uniform and walk out on the field are carrying that for all of the officials everywhere in the world in every sport. And they're taking a risk. And those that risk win. Because you never know how good you are until the worst of the worst happens. And you are there and you handle it. And the pain of mistake is so evident inside of that. People say, oh, the officials are out there. They're just a bunch of guys that put a uniform on and run around for 3 hours.
Oh, my goodness. No.
They don't know all of the work and heartache and family time given up for officiating and having kind of support that you need in order to succeed. Every time you turn your television set on and you see officials, think about how much they put into what they're doing in order for you to see them. It's a profession that is second to none. And when you bump into other officials from other sports or your own, there's that warm feeling of camaraderie because you know and they know what you've put into it. I've got a big birthday coming soon, and I can't run around on the football field anymore, but I have the memories and the wherewithal to talk to young officials, especially at my old position as head referee, on what makes them better. And a week doesn't go by that a number of referees from the college and from the pros call me. Did you see my game? Did you see something? Is there something that I could do better? That makes me feel that what I have, I can pass on to others. Because what an official really does is he passes or she passes everything that they've learned when they're through officiating, even while they are officiating, to others so that they can keep passing it on. It's all learned from others, things that everybody takes for granted, but somebody taught it to me. And hopefully fortunate enough to be able to help teach all these young officials the things that I've learned.
Well, I will say this. I know that the officials who speak with me truly appreciate your guidance, how you advise handling those situations and challenges that come up both on and off the field. And really, truly, my last question for you is, how do you even relax? What are you watching? What are you reading?
Well, to be honest with you, I read sports books. I read Harry Truman. I read presidential novels, historic novels. But I really are more into leadership books and ideas that successful people in all different walks of life have written. I use it even today to pass on things to others. A wise person once told me that if you compliment as well as criticize, but end with a good compliment, that the people that you're working with will perform well. If you beat someone up because they've made a mistake and you hound them to death, they will not perform for you. So we need to give confidence. I read a lot of books about confidence in sports. It's the same in big business. I worked for a big company for many years, and all of the skills that I had for that, I use in officiating. When you mentor people, it makes you proud to watch them. You worked there are a number of NFL officials that I worked with when they were in high school and college that are succeeding at the top level. And it makes me feel so good when I see them, when I watch them working. A little piece of me is there. I mean, I didn't make them as good as they are. They are that good, but I helped. A word, an attitude, all the things that make for something special. That's my reward today.
That's fantastic. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing some perspective that I don't think individuals that are at home watching football, either at the national championship, the college or the NFL, the pro levels, may not even have an idea of. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us today.
Well, it's a pleasure dealing with you because you're a real professional and what you're doing helps And it's a great position that you have, helping people to be leaders in their own right. And it's my pleasure to have been on here and have worked with you.
Well, it truly is such an honor, and I will continue to watch. Every time I watch and I talk with officials, I do think of you, and I'm thinking, I wonder if that advisement that you're giving them is coming through. And I can see it when improvements happen and how great that is. So on behalf of a number of individuals that have worked with you, I know collectively they would just say thank you. So for those that are listening, don't forget that you can provide feedback at info@mazeassociatesltd.com. We appreciate you sharing and liking the show. And of course, until next time.
The Pen Leader podcast is hosted by Dr. Shanda Gore and brought to you by Maze & Associates Ltd, creating customized solutions for growth in the areas of leadership development, strategic planning, and culture building. Find out more at www.mazeassociatesltd.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pen Leader podcast and share with others.